Hi stamping friends, Melissa Kerman here with Melissa's Crafting Treehouse. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and I sell all the products that I share in my videos. Today I'll be sharing a simple fun fold card made with the Classic Garage Designer Series paper that will be retiring with the catalog that's going away on June 3rd. So this was a team make and take project, and so I prepared a bit of a template for them to make it super easy. And the piece of cardstock measures the 5.5 by 8.5, a typical size card body, but it's scored at 2 1/8 and 6 1/4. And what that does is it makes one panel a little bit bigger than the other so that it'll overlap in the back when we assemble the whole card. So what I had people do was they took my little template and made a mark in the center line down the center and scored to create the V, as you can see there, so that it would be a guide when they were folding the openings of their the shirt collars. So now if you were doing this on your own, you would just measure the center point of that central panel. So that center panel measures 2 1/8 inches, so you'd be making a pencil mark at about 1 1/16 inches right there in the center, and then use a ruler and draw a line going down that's about 1 to 1 1/4 inches long, depending on how open you want your collar to be. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to test to make sure that the inside shirt piece lines up with the line that I've drawn in the center of the outside shirt piece, and that is that Tranquil Tide piece right there. Now the Tranquil Tide piece measures 5 7/16 by 8 inches, and it's sized so that it tucks into the inside without being too snug. Or too loose for that matter. So, and it's scored at 2 inches from each end. So you can see now I'm testing it there and making sure that the opening on the front of the Tranquil Tide piece lines up with the pencil mark on the outside basic gray piece. So next I'm going to take my designer paper panel, the piece right there with the cars, put adhesive on the back side and attach it to the front of my, my shirt or my card. Now you may not want to put adhesive all across the top because you'll see later that the designer paper piece, I've sort of pulled it away from the basic gray piece so that I can add some dimensionals in behind it. So I had to remove that adhesive when I did mine. So now you can see I made my pencil marks. I used the template, but you'd be maybe doing it on your own, and then folded them back to sort of create the collar, of course, of the shirt. And next, of course, I'm putting on my tear and tape. Now, the overlap in the back is actually not very big. It's less than 1/4 inch. I'm showing you right there. So what I did was I put the tear and tape on so it hung off the edge of the basic gray piece. And then I'm going to pull off the backing and then just fold it over onto itself so that it's not showing in the back, but then not making it sticky on the inside so that the inside piece won't slide. It would get stuck to it if there was adhesive on the inside. So next I'm going to put a piece of smoky slate onto the central panel of that Tranquil Tide piece. That will be the inside of my card and a place for people to write. So next I'm going to test that this Tranquil Tide piece, the inside of the shirt, actually fits into the outside, that it tucks in, and it's just a tiny bit tight. So when you do it, if you decide to make this card, you might want to adjust the sizing ever so slightly so that the 8-inch width is just a little bit smaller than 8 inches, and then it should make it go more smoothly. So next I'm going to tuck that in and make some little score lines with my scoring tool on the V opening for the neck, and then I'll just fold back those Tranquil Tide flaps. So the last thing that I need to do is add a few dimensionals. I like to have my collar sort of raised up just a little bit. So here I've just added a dimensional to the collar, and I like to add it out towards the tip to make it lay just the way I want it to be. And now I'm going to take my Smoky Slate Blends alcohol marker. I've used the dark one, and I'm going to color a couple of pearls to make my little buttons that are going to go down the front. So I always like to color them on the platform where the pearls come on the piece of paper, as opposed to put them on the card first. And that way I make sure I don't get any excess gray onto my designer paper or the front of my card. And now I'm just going to place them out in a row down the front. So the last thing I added to this card was one more layer of dimensionals between the basic gray card body piece and the designer series paper. So that's where I was saying that you don't want the designer series paper attached to your card base, and that way it can also be raised up a little bit and look more natural. You can't attach the inside collar, of course, because then it won't slide, so slide in and out. So it was raised up a little bit, so by using dimensionals under those other two layers of the collar, it made it sort of a gradually more higher. So there's different pieces of the collar element. And again, you'll want to, in this case, use your mini dimensionals so that they're not too bulky and big, and I've put them out towards the point. If you put them too close into the center, it sort of rounds the paper, and by putting it out towards the end, it just raises it up just perfectly. So you can see now I'm attaching down the designer series paper to the base of the card, and that inside layer remains up. And now I can slide it in and out. And on this second version, I've actually used a piece of So Saffron for the inside of the card, and of course for where somebody could actually write. And I'm burnishing those last collar edges really well so it lays as flat as it possibly can. And there's my finished card. So when I did this project with my team, everyone used a different designer series paper, and here are a few of their cards. This was super fun to do, and I hope you'll give it a try. I hope you've enjoyed my project today and will come back and visit me sometime soon. Plus, make sure to check out the video description below for lots of useful links, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with friends, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for spending some time with me today, and happy crafting!